Hey, I'm Dr. Duke again, and I'm joined today by a very special guest. I have a tremendous admiration for this man's work. He's one of the best writers in the business today. He is Bill Jasper. He is senior editor for The New American. Bill, thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure being with you, Dr. Duke.
I've been reading your stuff for long before I had the vaguest idea what the John Birch Society was. Your writing is really transcended on some of the major issues of the day. And one of the big issues today that all conservative networks, all conservative news is dealing with is censorship from the big social media platforms. We at Freedom Project have experienced it ourselves, and I know that The New American is now beginning to find a problem. Explain what's recently gone on with The New American.
Well, what recently happened is just the latest manifestation of this, where it has directly impacted us and where they have explicitly targeted us. And that was with regard to our recent cover of the New American magazine about illegal migration. And the cover photo shows migrants coming across our wall, such as it is on our southern border. And we were contacted in a notification by Facebook that our posting of this on our Facebook account for the New American magazine was in offense of their standards practice, and that as a result, we were being demonetized for 30 days. For those not familiar with it, that means that we can't receive any revenue stream from any of our ads as they appear on Facebook. And they further stated that if another offense of this nature, hate speech, occurred, that we would be permanently demonetized and or banned. So that's a very serious thing for a number of reasons. One, it sends a strong signal to everyone that if you say or even give an image which they find offensive, which, as we pointed out, we had an article by Louis Miguel, went through this very carefully. He said there's nothing on the cover photo, in the title, or in the text of the articles that can in any way be fairly called racist or anti-immigrant or in any way, shape, or form be hate speech. We do not hate immigrants. It points out the difference between migrants, those who come through illegally, and immigrants who we welcome because they come through here legally and through the process, which every country in the world has. And yet Facebook has specifically declared that this is hate speech.
So on the cover, for our radio audience, on the cover, there's a picture of a migrant scaling one of our walls. And share with the audience, what is the text, the actual text on the front cover say, the words?
The text on the front cover says immigrant invasion.
Right. And to my understanding, the word invasion, we have dealt with Facebook and Twitter and all this stuff too. And anytime you say there's certain groups, anything that even remotely contradicts transsexuality, homosexuality, or immigrants, those three things in particular, any title, any commentary, any header that can be perceived to do anything but radically support those groups is deemed hate speech or offensive. We've been demonetized a dozen times. And like you at the TNA, when we send our email in, try to find out what's going on, they never get back to you. And if they do, they tell you they're going to look into it weeks later. I'll give you one example. Last week, we were on some kind of a informal shadow ban from Facebook. We have 150,000 viewers for our show. We sent it out to all 150,000 of them. We have a screenshot. Only 8 people were allowed to see it, that we even had it online. And so it doesn't make a lot of sense for all of this.
Well, and that's what, of course, across the board, conservative, pro-life, pro-family, libertarian groups that will not engage in the PC culture, refuse to adopt the political correctness line on these key areas, find that they can trigger a banning or a censorship just by, for instance, putting a standard nuclear family, father, mother, children on the cover, while you're reinforcing heteronormativity. Oh, we can't have that. That is hostile. That triggers some LGBTQ plus grievance group, and then it's considered hate speech. And that's the position we've come to now, where we are seeing very close parallels to what has been in place in communist China for a number of years, and which, of course, harkens back to the Cultural Revolution, where everything has to be politically correct. That's where this whole term political correctness comes from. It's from the communist ideology. Those things which are deemed politically incorrect have to be stopped, have to be banned, have to be wiped out. Yeah. And this is very scary when we have this promoted not just by Facebook, but by Twitter, Google, Instagram, all the rest of the tech giants.
Yeah, no, it really is a big problem. One of the things that you said that really stood out to me is, of course, it's communist China where the word political correctness first evolved. The other thing that I find really interesting about this is the left seems to be able to say whatever they want. Something as simple as you said, the image of a nuclear family promoting traditional values, that's enough to get you banned. We know for a fact that when liberals come to our site, trolls, so to speak, come to our site, everything we put out, they just click, this is offensive, this is offensive, this is offensive. And we know that at places like Facebook, if enough liberals click that they're offended, they'll pull you down. But it doesn't work the other way. Give an example or talk a little bit, Bill, about how the left can say pretty much anything online, regardless of who protests, and nothing happens.
Well, just before we went online, I did a quick check. I put Kathy Griffin in for both Facebook and Twitter. Now, most people know that she's a so-called comedian. She's the one that did the offensive, really murderous joke showing the blood-dripping head of Donald Trump. She was holding up his bleeding head on a platter. And that was... she's made many violent advocacy jokes. She's on Twitter, she's on Facebook, no problem. Antifa, I mean, you can't ask for a more violent group. They're documented video after video and on college campuses, at political rallies, whatnot, attacking people unprovoked, physically beating people up. Advocating exploding and throwing devices. We just had this recent Antifa guy from the Netherlands who was shot dead after he came throwing explosives at an ICE facility. So Antifa, which is openly communist, they even put on their hammers and sickles and their masks, illegally in most cases. They have their Twitter, and there's actually dozens of different Antifa groups, including Antifa International. I just checked now; both their Twitter and Facebook accounts are up. They seem to have no problem. We can go through the lineup of all of the different left-wing groups. For instance, Rachel Maddow, she's on Twitter and on Facebook right now. I just checked, and yet. One of the criteria that Facebook and Google and others are using is they say conspiracy theory is one of the things that can't be allowed. She has been the primary conspiracy theorist for the Trump-Russia collusion for the last almost 2 years. She went through 18 months of every night Russia collusion, conspiracy with Russia. She has experienced no kickback on that.
Bill, this is really a disturbing trend, I know. But in the minute that we have left, about a minute left, we keep hearing from liberal taunters, liberal trolls, hey, you conservatives, you want to have it both ways. These are private companies. They can do whatever they want. They have their free speech. Why should we care? And what could theoretically be done? And should we do anything to try to force them to be more inclusive?
Well, that's a very good question, and this is something that we are writing on. We're going to be doing more on, and that is that this is not simply a private company matter. The Facebook, Twitter, all the big social media, Google companies have been given by Congress special status. That is, they are not held to any of the same standards that regular publishers are. They cannot be sued for many of the things which they put on their programs, as well as for the censorship. So they have been given a special status under federal law, and that is one of the areas that should be looked at and should be revised.
Bill Jasper, senior editor for The New American, thank you so much for your insights today. This is a problem I don't think is going to go away, and I would warn all of our listeners, our viewers out there, that as the election draws near, it's going to get much worse as they try to promote certain candidates over others. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Duke.